Ever stop and wonder, what would money even look like for a civilization zipping between the stars? Well, today we're diving into a public GitHub repo for a project that's trying to answer that exact question. It's called Kardashev Coin, and it's this really wild idea that smashes together some heavy sci-fi theory with actual real-world blockchain tech.
So let's just start with that big, juicy question, right? To really get what this whole thing is about, you got to ask, what would money be for a civilization that spans multiple star systems? How in the world do you build a currency that's not just for today, but for a future we can barely even wrap our heads around? All right, section 1. This is where we get into the core vision. We're going to unpack the incredible why behind this project. Because let's be real, this isn't just another crypto coin. It's a serious attempt to answer that massive interstellar question.
So the name itself, Kardashev, actually comes from something called the Kardashev scale. If you've never heard of it, it's basically a way to classify civilizations based on how much energy they use. A Type 1 civilization uses all the energy on its planet, a Type 2 harnesses its entire star, and a Type 3, its entire galaxy. It's pretty much a scale of humanity's ultimate potential.
And this right here, this is the mission statement. This perfectly captures what they're trying to do. The goal of Kardashev Coin isn't just to be money. It's supposed to be a tool that actually fuels humanity's journey up that cosmic ladder. I mean, that is a massive, massive ambition.
So, how do you even start building something like this? Well, the project lays out this foundation with 4 key pillars. First, it's got to be tough enough to survive attacks from future quantum computers. It has to be super cheap so anyone can use it. It needs to plug into the whole world of decentralized finance, or DeFi. And most importantly, it has to be built from the ground up for those, interstellar needs.
Okay, so let's get into the fun stuff. The tech. How do you actually build a currency for the future? Well, you start by thinking about the threats of the future. And here's the big problem they're trying to solve, and honestly, it's a huge one for all of cybersecurity. A lot of today's big cryptos, like Bitcoin, have this potential future problem. Super powerful quantum computers could, in theory, break them. So Kardashev Coin's whole approach is to get way ahead of that curve by building in what's called post-quantum cryptography right from the very start.
Now, when you peek under the hood at the code, you see they aren't trying to reinvent the wheel completely. It's built as an ERC20 token. That's kind of the universal standard on networks like Ethereum. And crucially, it uses something called an upgradable proxy pattern. All that really means is that the developers can actually fix bugs or add new features later on. And it's all built on OpenZeppelin's code, which is pretty much the gold standard for security in the crypto space.
Okay, so we've been talking about all this far future, sci-fi stuff, but what about right now? This next section brings us right back down to Earth. We're going to look at the practical, real-world decisions that have to be made to make this cosmic idea even work today.
And this chart right here, this just says it all. I mean, look at that staggering difference in cost. To launch this thing on the main Ethereum network, you could be looking at over $1,000, easy. But on Polygon, which is what they call a layer 2, built for speed and low fees, we're talking maybe $20? Yeah, for a brand new experimental project like this, that's what we call a no-brainer.
And it's not just about the cost. The project is designed to run across a whole bunch of different networks. This shows a really professional workflow, They can build it on their own computers, test it like crazy on networks like Mumbai and Sepolia, and then finally push the real version to Polygon. It just shows a really thoughtful development process.
So what's the long game? Let's take a look at the official roadmap. This isn't just about launching a coin and calling it a day. This is a whole 5-phase voyage designed to build an entire ecosystem from the ground up.
So let's walk through this journey step by step. Phase 1 is the simple launch. Phase 2 is where they add that quantum-resistant armor we talked about. Phase 3 is all about building out a financial world around the coin. Phase 4 connects it to other blockchains so it's not just stuck on its own island. And then there's Phase 5. This is where things get really wild, with sci-fi ideas like energy-based mining that could literally tie the currency's value directly to the Kardashev scale itself.
So far, this all sounds incredibly ambitious, super well thought out. But now we got to bring this whole vision back to reality. And this section takes a crucial hard look at where this project is right at this very moment.
First up, let's look at GitHub stars. This is a pretty key measure of how much interest the community has in a project. And the number is 0.
Okay, next up, forks. This shows if any other developers have copied the code to build their own thing on top of it. And that's also 0. And then commits, actual updates to the code. There's just 1. So what does all this tell us? It tells us this project is at the very, very beginning. It's really more of a blueprint right now than an actual building. Now, to their credit, the developers are completely upfront about this. Right there in the documentation, they say it loud and clear, this is experimental software. Use at your own risk. And that is a vital reminder of just how early and speculative this whole thing is.
So, what do we make of Kardashev Coin in the end? Is it this brilliant, forward-thinking blueprint for a currency that could one day power humanity's expansion to the stars? Or is it, for now at least, just a fascinating dream living inside a single commit on GitHub? The vision is absolutely vast, but the journey, well, that's only just begun. What do you think?